I woke up in a cramped little room, the kind of space folks usually use for storage. Old crates, forgotten stuff. The ceiling was low. A dim yellow light spilled down, casting my shadow on the stained wall, like it didn't belong there. From outside, laughter echoed in from the living room. Clinking glasses, music from a Bluetooth speaker, voices talking over each other. It was lively, warm, full of life. But none of it was meant for me. I curled up on an old folding bed, gripping a worn silver key tight in my hand. The key to this house. The house I built, with my own hands, more than 30 years ago. I remembered every brick I laid, every nail I hammered in. I remembered the day my wife stood on the porch, smiling. As she stepped inside for the first time, everything came rushing back. But now, it all felt so far away. And then I heard her voice, sharp, clear, my daughter-in-law. Don't let him sit in the living room. This is our house now. That sentence cut straight through me. I heard it, but I couldn't believe it. Me, the man who gave up his youth, his sweat, his hands, to build these walls. And now, I was just the outsider. I closed my eyes, took a long, slow breath, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. And suddenly, there she was again, my wife, standing by the window, resting her hand on my shoulder, smiling gently. She once told me, "This house will always be a place our children come home to." I believed her. I really did. I thought this villa would be the anchor, a home for Benjamin, our only son, and every generation after. But now, all that's left for me is this dark little storeroom, a place I hide in, just to avoid the look in her eyes. The house I once took pride in has turned into the place I'm no longer welcome. I opened my hand and looked at the silver key, cold, its sharp edges dug into my skin, a quiet reminder, maybe I'm not the owner anymore. My whole life, everything I built, reduced to a single key. And yet, just one sentence from her was enough to make me feel like I never belonged here at all. Maybe the greatest pain a father can feel isn't in the struggle of raising a child, or the silence after losing the one he loves. Maybe the real pain is when he realizes he's become a guest in the very home he once built with love. My name is Daniel, 60 years old this year. I spent my whole life working as a construction engineer. Folks used to joke, called me the concrete man, because I always believed anything can stand strong if the foundation is solid enough. I worked all across Nevada and California. Big sites, small projects, grinding away for decades, saving every dollar I could. My wife, Linda, she was my rock. She was a school teacher, had that kind of voice that could quiet a storm. Every time she spoke, the world just slowed down. She used to dream of having a big, sunny house, with a long wooden porch, full of flowers and hanging orchids she loved. I promised her, I'll build that house for you, with my own hands. And I did. This villa on the edge of town. It took me 3 full years. I picked out every beam myself, measured every stair, designed every window, so the afternoon light would fall just right into the living room. I remember the day we moved in. Linda stood on the porch, smiling wide, arms outstretched, like she was hugging the whole house. Our son, Benjamin, he was 12 back then, running through the rooms like a puppy let off its leash. Those years, this house was filled with laughter. Linda cooking dinner in the big kitchen, me out in the yard watering plants or polishing my old tool set. Benjamin did his homework right at the dining table. Sometimes he'd glance up, ask his mom about division, then turn to me. "Dad, is being an engineer hard?" I just laughed. If it's hard, that means it's worth doing. Back then, this house wasn't just wood and brick. It was the heart of the 3 of us. Then Linda got sick. Cancer came like a storm. I tried to be strong, but all I could do was watch her fade. On her last evening, she sat by the bedroom window, held my hand, and whispered, "Keep this house, so Ben always has a place to come home to." Then, she closed her eyes. After Linda passed, the house felt hollow. Only my footsteps echoed down the hallway. I still made coffee every morning, but there was no one across the table. The dining room felt too big, too quiet. At night, the wind outside the porch sounded too much like her cough. The house that was once peace now became a memory of loneliness. Benjamin had gone off to college by then, got a job, got married. I didn't say much, but truth is, I felt him growing distant. The calls became rare. The visits? Short. I told myself that's just how life goes. Kids grow up. They have their own path. But deep down, I still hoped that one day he'd see this house as home again. Then came the chance. After getting married, Benjamin and his wife rented a small apartment downtown. Cramped. Expensive. I saw them struggling, saw the stress in their faces. One evening, I invited them over for dinner. After we ate, I poured a little wine, looked at them and said, "This house is big, and it's lonely with just me. If you want, move in. There's room for a new beginning. Room for kids? Someday." Benjamin's eyes lit up. His wife nodded, though I sensed a bit of hesitation. Still, I believed it was the right thing. Help them out. And maybe this house wouldn't feel so empty anymore. The first few months were joyful. Laughter returned. Footsteps ran up and down the stairs. She cooked Italian dishes. The smell filled the kitchen. Benjamin helped me cut grass in the yard. We'd talk, work, football, life. Sometimes it felt like those old days. Like Linda's dream was alive again. I slept better. No more nightmares. But then, slowly, quietly, things started to shift. I heard my daughter-in-law tell her friends, "This is our house. We just moved in." I froze for a moment, but told myself, it's just words. Benjamin started saying our house too. Not Dad's house. Not the family home. Just ours. I forced a smile. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Then the furniture changed. Linda's favorite sofa, gone. Replaced with something more modern. Her orchids disappeared. Plastic flowers showed up instead. I wanted to say something, but I stayed quiet. Told myself, if they're happy, if the house is full of life again, maybe that's enough. But deep down, I began to feel it. Like I was slowly being pushed out of the very home I once built with my own two hands. At first, I told myself this was all normal. When more people live under one roof, things change. Adjustments happen. I kept repeating it like a mantra. As long as they're happy, as long as there's laughter in this house, that's all that matters. But the signs, they started piling up, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. One evening, I came back from the store, just bought a few things we needed. As I walked through the gate, I heard Benjamin's voice from the living room. "Welcome to our home." I stopped in my tracks. He wasn't talking to me. He was greeting his wife's friends. But that phrase, our home, felt like a needle through the chest. When I stepped inside, a few guests nodded politely, but their eyes barely landed on me, like I was just the old man who watches the place. My daughter-in-law spoke quickly. "Dad, why don't you head upstairs and rest? We're talking business down here." Rest. I forced a smile, nodded, held onto my bag, and slowly climbed the stairs. But that night, my legs felt heavier than ever. I used to start every morning on the porch, brewing coffee, sitting in Linda's favorite wooden chair. She loved the soft morning light, said it felt warm, peaceful. But now, the wooden chair was gone. In its place, a sleek, cold, gray seat. Modern, minimal, matches the new design, my daughter-in-law said. I asked, "Where's the old chair?" She answered like it was nothing. I tossed it. It was ugly. Took up space. I stayed quiet. But inside, something cracked. That chair wasn't just wood. It was a piece of Linda, of us. Now it was gone, swept away. Like the years we spent building this life. In the kitchen, new cabinets were installed. Shiny white paint. Everything polished. Linda's old pots, the ones she used every night, gone too. I asked Benjamin. He just said, "They were worn out, Dad. Time to toss the old stuff." Each little change, on its own, maybe it didn't matter. But together, they created a hole in my chest. The house, once our home, was becoming something unfamiliar. One weekend afternoon, I was out in the garden, trimming weeds around Linda's flower beds. The sun was warm, just like it used to be. Then I heard laughter. My daughter-in-law was showing a friend around, and I heard her say, "This is our place. We got lucky. A villa this big? His dad just stays in one room." My hand froze. The shears slipped, cut into my finger. Blood welled up. But the pain from her words cut deeper. Just stays in one room. Since when did I, the man who built this place, become someone who just stays? I turned, walked inside. Didn't look back. Dinner used to be sacred. Family time. Linda would set the table. Benjamin and I would carry dishes, talk about school or work. Now, I'm barely invited. Sometimes I'd hear, "Dad, can you eat later? We have guests tonight." So I'd sit in the storage room, slurping instant noodles, listening to laughter echo from the dining hall. That sound, once joyful, now felt like it was shutting me out. One night, I gathered my courage, sat at the table, waited for everyone to settle. I wanted to tell Benjamin about the garden pipe. It needed fixing. But my daughter-in-law interrupted. "Dad, we're discussing a new car. Let's talk about pipes tomorrow." Her tone was soft, polite, but the message was clear. "You don't matter here." I stayed silent, chewed slowly. Even the tastiest food felt hard to swallow. And then came the breaking point. One late night, I couldn't sleep. Went out into the hallway, just to clear my mind. As I passed the living room, I heard whispers. Benjamin and his wife, talking quietly. But the house was still. Every word reached me clearly. "We can't stay here forever," she said. "Selling the villa would bring in good money. We could get a condo downtown, closer to work." Benjamin didn't respond. She pushed. "You have to talk to your dad. He can't live here alone forever, right?" I stood in the dark, frozen. My chest tightened, heart pounding, like something inside was being crushed. This house, Linda's house, now reduced to a number, a property to be sold. I stepped back, slowly, quietly, returned to my little room, sat on the bed, buried my face in my hands, and cried. I don't know if it was age, or something deeper, but in that moment, I realized something. Betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes, it comes from the ones you love most. The next morning, I opened the drawer, took out an old photo, the three of us, standing right in front of the porch, back when the house was brand new. Linda in her white dress, her arm wrapped around me. Benjamin in the middle, grinning wide. I looked at the photo, then at the house around me. New furniture, fresh paint. But the soul was gone. In my mind, I heard Linda's voice again. "Keep this house, okay? So Ben always has a place to come back to." And he did come back. But not like she meant. Not as a son returning home, but as a new owner, treating me like a leftover. I have to admit it now. I was wrong. Wrong to invite them in. I thought I was helping. Helping my son. Helping our family. But all I did was hand them control. And now, I'm the one being pushed aside. It's a painful truth, but it's clear. And from that day forward, something in me changed. I stayed quiet. Didn't say a word. But deep inside, a fire had started to burn. Because I knew this conflict was only just beginning. After that night, after hearing what Benjamin and his wife said, I couldn't sleep anymore. I lay awake for hours, on that old folding bed, in the storage room. Every time I closed my eyes, her voice echoed in my head. "Sell the house, buy a condo downtown." Again and again, like a hammer, pounding on my chest. I kept asking myself, where did I go wrong? I spent my whole life building this house, kept it standing, just like Linda asked me to. And now, my own son was treating it like a trade-in. The next morning, I walked into the living room, like I always did, just wanted to sit, read the paper. But my daughter-in-law looked up and said, "Dad, could you sit in the small study instead? I want to keep the living room clean, just in case guests drop by." Her tone was light, but the meaning behind it was heavy. I folded the paper, didn't say a word, just stepped outside to the porch. The sun was shining, but my heart was cold. And slowly, I began to notice the new rules. Unspoken, but always there. I wasn't allowed in the kitchen. When she was cooking, I wasn't allowed to invite my old friends over. I couldn't turn on the TV if they were in the living room. The house, my house, was no longer mine. All I had left were the corners. The quiet, empty corners. Like a guest, just passing through. One evening, Benjamin threw a birthday party for his wife. Laughter filled the place. Cars lined the driveway. I waited, thinking someone would call me to join. No one did. I sat in my room, listening to music thumping through the floor, smelling grilled food in the air. Later that night, when everyone had left, I snuck down to the kitchen. There was still a bit of cake left. I cut a small slice, but just then, she walked in, frowned. "You're still up, Dad. Why not eat in your room? It's more convenient." I stood there, silent. For the first time in my life, I felt ashamed. In my own kitchen, I put the cake down, walked out to the porch, sat under the moonlight. The wind was cold, but not as cold as what I felt inside. Linda used to hang family photos all along the hallway walls. Our wedding, Benjamin's graduation, trips we took together. One morning, I noticed they were gone, replaced with loud, modern artwork. Bright colors, no memories. I asked Benjamin, "Where are the photos?" He said casually, "Pack them away." My wife said they looked too old. I couldn't speak. Those photos weren't just images. They were pieces of our life, now stuffed somewhere in a box, forgotten. One evening, I tried to talk to Benjamin, poured a little whiskey, invited him to the porch. "Ben, have you ever thought about keeping this house, like your mother always wanted?" He paused, then said, Dad, I get it, but times are different now. This place is too big, too far, too expensive to maintain. She wants something more convenient. Honestly, selling it makes sense." I looked at him, tried to see the boy, who once laughed, running barefoot through this porch. But all I saw was a man, cold and practical. I swallowed hard, nodded. "Yeah, I understand." But inside, it felt like being cut open. Another time, his friends came over. I passed through the living room, just to say hello. One of them joked, "Oh, the old guy lives here? Was he the previous owner?" Everyone laughed. Benjamin gave a nervous chuckle. "Yeah, he stays with us. Keeps an eye on the place." Keeps an eye on the place. Since when? Did I become just the caretaker? I kept walking. Didn't look back. One stormy night, I heard water pouring off the roof. I stepped out. The drain was clogged, water flooding the yard. I called for Benjamin. He snapped, "Dad, leave it for tomorrow. I'm tired." So I grabbed the ladder, went out in the rain, cleared it myself. Rain lashed my face, hands trembling, and in that moment, I finally saw it clearly. No one else cared about this house anymore. No one but me. I was the only one still holding on, still fighting, for something already lost. Then one morning, I heard her talking on the phone. "Yeah, we're working on transferring the deed. Just need to convince the old man to sign." I froze on the staircase, felt my heart stop. So that was it. No more guessing. No more maybe. They really were trying to take it all. I went back to my room, opened the drawer, pulled out Linda's old notebook. Her handwriting, faded and fragile, still there. "This house is a promise. Keep it, Daniel. No matter what happens." Tears fell onto the yellowed page. I clutched the notebook tight, whispered, "Linda, I will. I swear I will." I finally saw the truth. I wasn't the respected father anymore, not even a member of this home, just an obstacle in their way. But right then, something shifted. I knew it was time to act, not with anger, not with shouting, but with the only thing I had left, a quiet, steady resolve to keep the promise, to protect this home, for her. I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. If I kept swallowing it all down, one day, they'd force me out of the very place I built with my own hands. But I also knew anger wouldn't change a thing. Yelling would only make them see me as the stubborn old man, clinging to the past. I needed another way. One morning, while they were still asleep, I quietly left the house and drove to an old friend's office, a lawyer I'd worked with years ago. His name was George. We'd handled plenty of construction contracts together back in the day. I set the papers down in front of him, my voice low and hoarse. "George, I need your help. I need to protect this house. No matter what, it can't be sold." He looked at me, a little surprised. I told him everything. About Linda, about her wish, about Benjamin, and his wife. George nodded slowly, then offered a solution. Transfer the house to a local architectural preservation trust. That way, I'd retain the right to live there for the rest of my life. But the house itself would be protected forever. No one, not even Benjamin, could sell it. I sat there for a long time, thinking. This meant giving up the title, letting go of the name on the deed. But deep down, I knew I had no other choice. If I had to hand this house to anyone, better a preservation trust than to people who only saw it as a transaction. I signed. My hand trembled. Every stroke felt like driving a nail into wood. When the red stamp hit the page, I exhaled, relieved and heartbroken. After that, I lived the same way I always had. I kept tending the garden, ate dinner in my little room, nodded along to every new design change. They must have thought I'd finally given up. and I let them believe it. But inside, each passing day felt like winding a clock. I knew the moment would come, and I was ready. It happened on a Saturday night. The table was set, all kinds of dishes, not for me, but because they had something important to announce. I sat at the corner, quiet, listening. Benjamin spoke first. He sounded rehearsed. "Dad, we've made a decision. This house is too big. You're getting older. It's not practical. We've talked it through. We're going to sell it and get a condo downtown. It'll be easier for your health, closer to everything. It's for your own good." I looked at him, looked straight into his eyes that once looked up at me when I taught him to walk. Now, they were distant, calculating. I didn't say a word. Then she jumped in, firm, direct. "We've already found a buyer. We just need you to sign the transfer papers. We can start the paperwork tomorrow." Silence. Even the ticking clock on the wall felt too loud. I took a deep breath, reached into my bag, placed a folder on the table. "No need," I said softly. "This house isn't mine to sell anymore." Benjamin blinked. "What do you mean?" I pushed the file toward him. The red stamp shone on the first page. "I've transferred ownership to the Architectural Preservation Trust. I retain the right to live here until the day I die. But from now on, no one can sell this home." His face turned pale. She jumped from her chair. "What? You did this behind our backs?" I looked her in the eye. Calm, steady. I didn't need to ask. This was a promise I made to their mother. This house isn't something you bargain over. It's blood. It's memory. If you can't value that, then I'll protect it in my own way. The air turned sharp, tense. Benjamin stammered. "Dad, how could you? We're family." I waited, then replied, "Family doesn't take. Family preserves. You forgot that." Her cheeks flushed red. She slammed her hand on the table. "So we get nothing? All these years living here meant nothing?" I stayed still, voice even. "If you want a home, build one. Don't take what I spent a lifetime and your mother's soul to create." Silence. Benjamin lowered his head. She turned away, heels tapping sharply against the cold floor. I sat there, alone, my hand resting on the folder, my heart both aching and at peace. That night, I stepped out to the porch, sat in the new chair she had bought. But in my arms was Linda's old pillow. The moonlight lit up the lines on my hands, each wrinkle a memory. I knew I'd just lost a piece of my son, but I also knew I had protected the soul of this home and kept my promise to Linda. After I set the folder down, the room froze. Benjamin sat motionless, eyes wide, his knuckles clenched white against the chair. My daughter-in-law turned red, exhaling sharp breaths, as if she still couldn't believe what she'd just heard. The kitchen, once filled with laughter, now sat in a heavy, suffocating silence. I could almost feel 1,000 invisible blades hanging above us, waiting to fall. She was the first to lose control, shot up from her chair, sent it crashing to the floor. Her voice shrill. "What gives you the right, Dad? This is my husband's home too. Do you see us as outsiders now?" I looked her in the eye, but my voice stayed calm. "This house was built by your mother-in-law and me. It's a promise, a memory. If you only see it as property, then you've never truly understood this family." Benjamin raised his head. His voice cracked, part anger, part helplessness. "Why didn't you talk to me first, Dad? We're family." I took a deep breath, my chest heavy. Family isn't about waiting for one person to sacrifice so the others can take. Family means preserving, together. And you forgot that, Ben. He fell silent. For a long time, I looked at him, and I didn't see the boy who used to run barefoot across the porch. I saw a man, grown, but distant. Maybe I had lost him long ago. I just hadn't realized it, until now. "Finally," he whispered, voice trembling, "I did all this because I wanted to take care of my wife. Our future. You wouldn't understand." I let out a bitter smile. "Oh, I understand, Ben. I was poor too. I saved every cent to build this house for your mother. I know what it means to protect the one you love. But the price can't be betrayal. It can't be selling the soul of this family." He bit his lip, didn't reply. I knew what he was feeling. A storm inside him, between his love for her and the blood that tied us. She stormed off, up the stairs, slammed the door. The walls shook, just like my heart. Benjamin stayed, still seated, eyes distant. And in that look, I saw something, regret and pain. I spoke softly. Son, if you ever truly want a home, build one yourself. Don't take what your father built, with a lifetime and with your mother's love. He didn't look back, just nodded slightly, then stood and left the room, said nothing. The house fell silent, completely. I sat alone, at the dinner table, the food, untouched, cold. I held my glass, but my hand trembled, not from fear, but from a deep, aching emptiness. I had won, in some sense. The house was safe, protected. No one could take it now. No one could sell it. But the price was a distance between me and my son that may never close. That night, I lay in the small storage room, rain tapping against the roof, wind hissing through the cracks. I opened the drawer, took out Linda's old notebook, her handwriting, still clear, on the yellowed page. Keep this house, so Ben will always have a place to come back to. I ran my fingers across the words, tears blurring the ink. I had kept the house. But what about Ben? Would he ever want to come back? Or had I pushed him too far away? In the dark, I whispered, Linda, I kept my promise. But if you were still here, you'd know how to fix this. Me? I don't. The next morning, I was out in the garden, watering the flowers. The early sun sparkled through the dew. Then I heard the door open. Benjamin stepped outside, eyes red, tired. He stood there for a long moment, then said softly, Dad, I just need time. I nodded, said nothing. He turned, walked to the car. She followed, didn't say goodbye. The gate closed behind them, and the yard fell still. The house returned to its quiet, that same quiet. That broke me, after Linda passed. But this time, it wasn't just her laughter I'd lost. It was my son. I sat alone on the porch, the old key resting in my hand. I turned it slowly, heard the click of metal. Familiar, final. I knew I had done the right thing. I protected this home. I preserved our memory. But I also knew some cracks in the heart can't be filled, not even with the strongest concrete in the world. The house returned to silence, just like the days after Linda left me. Only now, I no longer waited for Benjamin's footsteps or the laughter of his wife. They were gone, and what remained was a wide, aching emptiness between the walls I once believed would be our forever home. I walked slowly down the hallway. The modern paintings she hung were still there, but I had found the old photo box again, neatly stacked it on the shelf. One by one, I wiped the dust from each frame. My fingers trembled as they touched Linda's face in the photos. Her smile, still warm, still saying what words never could. You kept your promise. I sat out on the porch. As the late sun leaned across the yard, wind rustled gently through the trees. In my hand, the old key. It no longer opened anything, but somehow, it still beat in rhythm with my heart. I held it tight, its sharp edges cool against my skin. A reminder, some things we hold on to, not for what they unlock, but for the soul they carry. I don't blame Benjamin entirely. I know he just wanted to provide for the family he built, but the price he chose was far too high. Maybe one day, when he's older, when he's had time to look back, he'll understand. A home isn't just four walls. It's memories, sweat, promises. It's the place where your soul belongs. As night fell, I heard the neighborhood kids laughing and chasing each other outside. Their joy echoed through the yard. I looked up and saw the moon, bright, steady, and in that moment, I didn't feel completely alone. This house still stood, strong, a quiet monument to the life Linda and I had built, to the love we shared, to the years we gave everything we had. I probably don't have many more years ahead, but I do know this. I will spend the rest of them right here, in this house, as its final flamekeeper. And if one day Benjamin returns, if he can look me in the eye and say two words, I'm sorry, then I'll open my arms, just like I did the day he took his first steps. Because at the end of the day, I'm still his father. I closed my eyes, let a smile rise slowly to my lips, and whispered into the wind, Linda, you can rest easy now. This house will never be sold. It's still here, just like our love, never gone. And if you ever felt like a stranger? In your own family, just leave these 2 words. Still standing. You're not alone. Someone out here will always be listening.